Hi people! This video is going to be a summary of one of the latest Blueposts, which can be found on Classic WoWhead and of course on the Blizzard forums. If you're interested in this Bluepost in its original form, then there is a link in the description. And overall, this Bluepost gives us more information on how exactly the war effort event will work, some limitations on how and who can turn in the Scepter of the Shifting Sands questline, and most importantly, how Blizzard are planning to prevent the entire server from crashing during the world event following the ringing of the gong in Silithus. The first part of this Bluepost tells us that if you've been hoping to experience the Encourage events for the first time in game and really have a vanilla experience, you should turn back now, and I think that is true. Try not to read about everything beforehand if you really want to have a, like I said, vanilla experience. Moving on, they're telling us exactly when Phase 5 is going to go live, and this is something that they've talked about in earlier Blueposts. Basically, it's going to go live with a raid reset the week when the Tuesday the 28th, let's say, occurs. So basically, whenever you have your raid reset next week, that is when Phase 5 goes live. That is when the war effort event will begin, when the tier 0.5 quest chain will become available, and it's also when the Scepter of the Shifting Sands questline will become available. One important detail we're given about the war effort event is that once it is complete, there will be a 5-day, let's say, transportation of the NPCs from their, well, either Stormwind or Orgrimmar down to Silithus. And the gong cannot be rung until these 5 days have passed since the war effort has been completed. So if you, for whatever reason, not managed to complete the war effort event until a week later on your server, then it does not matter if you have the Scepter of the Shifting Sands completed, as you still have to wait these 5 days. However, if you've been active on the WoW Reddit or maybe on some of the Discords, I'm sure you've noticed that most servers already have finished all the materials. So personally, I believe that the war efforts on most big servers are going to be completed in just a matter of a couple of hours. So I think you do good in being well prepared if you want to be part of the war effort, as it's likely going to be over very soon. Now, once the war effort has been completed and 5 days have passed, and someone has finally completed the Scepter of the Shifting Sands questline, the Scarab Gong can be rung. Once it has been rung for the first time, a 10-hour-long server-wide event will begin that will mainly take place in Silithus, but also other regions of the world, as we will learn later on in this Bluepost. During these 10 hours, other players who have also completed the Scepter of the Shifting Sands will have their chance to turn it in and receive their mounts. Once these 10 hours are over, you can never again receive the mount on that server. However, you can start to receive the epic weapon from the quest Treasures of the Timeless Ones. A problem that existed on some servers back in vanilla, which I don't think will exist now in Classic, was scepter wielders who went rogue and rang the gong before the agreed upon time on that server. So maybe everyone agreed that, okay, next week on Tuesday at 10 AM we will ring the gong, but someone decided to ring it already on Monday morning instead. Or maybe even, Tuesday 03 AM, which would just create chaos and mean that some players who had put in all the efforts and managed to get the scepter would still not end up getting the mount, as someone decided to go rogue. Now, I believe that on basically every Classic server with a living raiding scene with some raiding guilds, the scepter will be completed about a week and let's say 2 hours after Phase 5 goes live. And the reason for this is that I think it's the second quest of the Scepter quest chain that requires you to kill Broodlord, where only one can loot his head. And then for the red shard of the Scepter, you need to talk to Veilstress and defeat Necerium. And this will not be possible until the first raid reset of Phase 5, which will occur, like I said, a week afterwards. And this means that basically everyone will be on the same stage and catch up right before the raid reset. So my prediction for almost all server is that 1 week and let's say 10 to 12 hours after Phase 5 has gone live is when the Anchorage raids will open up, as the raids do not open up until the war server event have ended, which was a 10-hour long server event. Moving on, Blizzard talks a bit more about the 10-hour server war and specifically how they're going to prevent the entire server from crashing when everyone wants to get into the same zone. And I'm reading from the Bluepost now. During the 10-hour war, world bosses do not only spawn in Silithus. Resonating crystals that spawn major enemies will appear in Tanaris, Feralas, Thousand Needles, and even the Barrens. This is important to know because we expect there to be an overcrowding issue in Silithus on realms whenever large groups of players all go to Silithus at the same time. While the negative effects of overcrowding can't be eliminated, we're taking several steps to mitigate the worst outcomes. Now, to prevent the server from going completely laggy, crash, ouch, Blizzard have decided to deal with it in the following way, and this is after experience from stress tests which took place on the PTR in June, and I'm reading again from the Bluepost. If the maximum is reached, players will be automatically removed from the zone. And now following is the order in which that will take place. First, players will be removed if they are below level 60. Alliance players will be ported to Westfall and Horde players will be ported to the Barrens. And I think that this could actually be a problem, but we will have to see exactly how that works out, and I'll come back to that soon, why that might be a problem. Now, level 60 players who are ported out of the zone will be moved to Angora Crater, Tanaris, Thousand Needles, or the Barrens. And I suppose that the way this is going to work is that first they fill up Silithus, and afterwards they fill up Unguru, and next Tanaris, Thousand Needles, and finally the Barrens. Now, what I don't know is where will people go if actually all of these zones are filled up. I can imagine that maybe there are 20,000 players participating in this and, you know, putting in, let's see, it's at 5 zone, putting in 4,000 player in each zone and add a whole bunch of mages doing their AoE thing. It might be possible that all of these zones still won't be sufficient. Where will players who can't be in the Barrens go? And even worse, if there are non-level 60 Horde players that are in the Barrens and the Barrens is filled, will they be tried to be sent to the Barrens, and what will happen then? I don't know whether this would be a problem, but if all of these zones will be completely filled, then let's hope Blizzard has a backup plan to this, instead of just having the entire server crash. Further, another restriction or detail they're giving us is that if Silithus is at max population, a level 60 player can only zone in when another player leaves Silithus. And exactly how this will work, let's say that you're flying down to Silithus and the zone is full, whether it will just send you straight back to where you came from, or if you'll be disconnected, or if you'll be put in a queue, we don't know. And they also finish up with saying that players who have a scepter will never be automatically removed from Silithus. And the final point is that zone maximums and automatic adjustments are per layer. One very important thing that isn't addressed here at all is how will Blizzard deal with scepter wielders who are not in Silithus. Let's say that most raiding guilds will already, all of them, be inside Silithus as their one guy is turning in the red shard quest and finally obtaining their scepter. Will these players be allowed into Silithus, as it is stated that players who have a scepter will never be automatically removed from Silithus, But it also says that if Silithus is at max population, a level 60 player can only zone in when another player leaves Silithus. And I think that if this isn't thought about in time, It could be possible that some of the scepter wielders will be locked out of Silithus and will be unable to turn on the scepter even though they have it ready and while these 10 hours are ticking down. And even if you might think that, well, maybe someone else who doesn't have the scepter could just leave Silithus, I'm sure that there are 1,000 other players constantly trying to get into Silithus. And how exactly it's going to work with, let's say, the Silithus queue, I'm also very interested in. Will it be like a battleground queue where you get a spot in a long row, and then once you're able to enter, you'll be teleported there? Or will you just be put in Unguru and you'll have to try and zone in over and over by running over the border? What will happen if you have your Hearthstone there? There are a lot of questions that are not answered here, and hopefully, even though I am a bit afraid it won't be addressed, but let's hope that Blizzard have found a good way to create this queue so we won't have massive problems, as there is a lot of things that can go very wrong during these 10 hours. The remainder of the Blizzard Bluepost touches on two other subjects, one of them being the restrictions they are putting on players who decided to do character transfers from one realm to another in relationship to the Scepter of the Shifting Sands, and then also what Blizzard plans to do on servers where the war effort is never completed. Now, what Blizzard writes about the restrictions on transferred characters is the following. There are restrictions on realm-to-realm character transfers, which are in place to prevent players of a different realm from coming to your realm and disrupting the progress of events. The quest Bang a Gong cannot be completed by characters who transferred to the realm in the past 90 days. However, those players can complete Treasures of the Timeless Ones, and that is the quest that gives you the epic weapon reward as an end of the Scepter quest chain. Before the end of the 10-hour war on a realm, there are also other restrictions on transfers for characters who have participated in significant event activities elsewhere. For example, players cannot transfer a character that has Silithus carapace fragments in their bags or bank. In case you didn't know, these Silithus carapace fragments are not considered quest items even though they're used for a quest, nor are they soulbound, meaning you can trade them and sell them on the auction house. And what this limitation prevents you from doing is essentially, let's say that a guild farms all of these 42,000 Silithus carapace fragments on a low-pop server, then they cannot transfer to a big server and give all of these carapace fragments to someone else to have him or her ring the gong. And this is basically to keep the Scepter of the Shifting Sands progress on a server to only that server. So you can't do one part of one server or have someone else do a certain part on another server in order to make another server finish it more quickly. For example, let's say that there are 10 guilds farming out the carapace fragments, and then all of those transfer to the same server and traded over to someone else to finish off the bug part in, let's say, an hour instead of, I don't know, 5 hours. The other thing, and this is something I think is not a great thing about this section on the Bluepost, is the 90-day, let's say, ban to complete the Bang a Gong quest. So like I said earlier, if you have transferred in the latest 90 days, you will not be able to complete the quest Bang a Gong. And this means essentially that if you decided to transfer to a server where you have some friends, let's say back in June or late May, you will not be able to complete the Scepter of the Shifting Sands quest chain. Which is very strange, as the announcement for Phase 5, I think, came roughly 30 days ago, and yet they've decided to ban anyone who transferred up to 2 months earlier from completing this quest chain. And I think that that is a pretty unfair and uncalled upon limitation that was maybe the right idea, but in the execution, 90 days I think is just way too long, and it would have been more reasonable if it was, let's say, a 30-day ban at least, or maybe just a week. So I can definitely see how for a few players this can be a really big problem. Finally, what they talked about is how they're going to handle the war effort on servers that simply never complete it. And now I'm gonna read from the Bluepost again. The initial war effort requires a great deal of supplies to be turned into your faction on your realm. If this is not complete 30 days after the content is unlocked, small amount of supplies will begin turning in automatically, as they did in version 1.12 of original WoW. The gates still require somebody to bang a gong, but this will help ensure that all realms have a chance to unlock Anchorage before Necerium is released. Now, exactly how much small events of resources mean is not defined. Is it 1,000 flowers per day? Is it 10,000? Is it 500? We don't know. What we do know is that eventually all servers will complete the war effort events eventually. And so that was the entirety of this latest Bluepost. How exactly these issues that I talked about might be solved and how exactly some of the things will be working, I guess we will just have to see. Maybe Blizzard will release another Bluepost that is more detailed. But that was all I had for this video. Make sure to like if you found this interesting and maybe subscribe to not miss videos in the future. If you have any questions or just want to say hi, I stream over at twitch.tv/NeceriumClouds. That is probably one of the better places to reach me and to get an answer in real time. Anyway, that was all I had for this video. I'll be back soon in the future with another video, and until then, see ya!